answers, and I'm sure there will be many.
I need to get a pen to write down. Yes. Actually, I'll just sit here. Turn this off if I can.
Any question? Any clarification?
First question is always
Any challenging question?
When people are thinking, maybe I would be a little bit elaborating. Ես վստահ եմ, որ շատերը հարցեր ունեք, բայց մինչև ձեր հարցերը ձեռագետեք, ես ուզում եմ շտկել մեր օրակարգի էլեմենտներից մեկը, Պասկալ Միշոն ինձ խոսքին հնարավորություն չտվեց, ես չներկայացա և այս լսարանը մեր սովորական լսարանը չի, սա խառնուրդ է քաղաքական գործիչների և հետազոտողների։ Ես ներկայացնում եմ հետազոտական ռեսուրսների Կովկասյան կենտրոնը, որը որ հասարակագետ կամ հասարակագիտության ոլորտի հետազոտություններն է սատարում, և մենք շատ հաճախ ասում ենք, որ շատ ենք կարևորում քաղաքականության ուղղված կիրառական հետազոտությունները, և ես հիացած եմ այսօրվա հանրային դասախոսությամբ, որը որ միջ առարկայական և քաղաքականության ուղղված տվյալների վրա հիմնված կիրառական հետազոտության փայլուն օրինակ է։ Տարբեր մեթոդներով հետազոտական արդյունքների հիման վրա քաղաքականության ուղղված բազմաթիվ առաջարկություններ, ըստ որում առաջարկություններ, որոնք հրավիրում են քննարկումների։ Եվ սա մեր անելիքն է, և ես այստեղ ուզում եմ մի քանի նրանք, ովքեր հետազոտողներ են, ովքեր որ չէ, էլի կհասկանան ինչի մասին եմ ասում, ցանկացած վերլուծաբանի և հրապարակվող հեղինակի վարկանիշը որոշվում է նրանով, թե որքան են ցիտում նրան։ Եվ ես պարոն Alderman-ի համար, երբ որ Google search տվեցի, պարզվեց, որ 79 թվից մինչև 2015 թիվը նրա ցիտումների տարեկան թիվը, հղումների թիվը 58-ն է։ Եվ այսպիսի մի գրաֆիկ տվեց ինձ Google search-ը, որ իր հրապարակումները ինչ դինամիկայով են աճել, կումուլատիվն է, և պետք է ասեմ, որ այս ընթացքում, երբ որ ես բարեբախտությունը CRRC-ին բարեբախտություն ունեցա համագործակցելու Պարենի համաշխարհային ծրագրի հայաստանյան գրասենյակի հետ, ես անընդհատ հիացմունքով եմ նայում, թե ինչ ծրագրեր են ձեռնարկում, ինչ կերպ են այդ ծրագրերի մասին հոգ տանում, և միայն այսօրվա հանրային դասախոսությունը կազմակերպելու համար հայաստանյան գրասենյակի ամբողջ անձնակազմը և Էլմիրա Բախշինյանը և Լուկան և գիտեմ Լավրա Ավագյան, որին անձամբ չեմ ճանաչում և ելի մարդիկ հսկայական ջանքեր են թափել, և ես կարծում եմ, որ այդ ջանքերը ապարդյուն չեն անցել, ու ես շատ կզարմանամ, եթե շատ հարցեր չլինեն, որովհետև մենք ունենք շատ լուրջ խնդիրներ, ես նայեցի նաև քաղցի համաշխարհային ինդեքսի համաթվի տվյալները, որտեղից պարզվեց, որ Հայաստանը 60-րդ տեղում է, իհարկե կան երկրներ, որտեղ որ քաղցի համաթիվը շատ ավելի բարձր է, քան Հայաստանում, բայց անդուհանդերձ Հայաստանում էլ քիչ չէ, բայց նկատի ունենալ Հայաստանի ֆինանսական սուղ հնարավորությունները, աշխարհաքաղաքական իրողություններով, և այստեղ եթե մենք խոսում ենք սննդի անվտանգության մասին, ապա մենք ունենք նաև անվտանգություն աշխարհաքաղաքական, որը շատ ավելի մեծ ռեսուրսներ է պահանջում, այդուհանդերձ այս սուղ ռեսուրսները հասցեական ուղղորդելու տեսանկյունից ես կարծում եմ, որ այսօրվա դասախոսությունը լրջորեն ու երկար խորհելու տեղիք է տալիս, և ես հավաստիացնում եմ որպես հետազոտող, որ այն աղբյուրները, որոնց որ հղումներ տվեց դոկտոր Alderman-ը, շատ օգտակար են և շատ կօգնեն նաև մեր ինքնուրույն հայաստանյան հետազոտողների կողմից վերլուծությունների խորացմանը, դրանց առաջ մղմանը և ի վերջո իրական սոցիալական փոփոխություններ հարուցելուն։ Ես անչափ շնորհակալ եմ Պարենի համաշխարհային ծրագրի հայաստանյան գրասենյակի ամբողջ անձնակազմին, որի ղեկավարն է Պասկալ Միշոն, եւ ել ավելի շնորհակալ եմ պարոն Aldermanին, որը ցույց տվեց հետազոտության եւ քաղաքականության փոխադարձ կապի շատ փայլուն օրինակ։ Շատ շնորհակալ եմ եւ պիտի իրոք հրավիրեմ ձեզ տալու ձեր հարցերը, այդ թվում նաեւ սննդի հարստացման վերաբերյալ, եթե այդպիսիք կան։ Ես շատ լավ գիտեմ, որ մեր հանրության մեջ դա շատ բուռն քննարկումների առարկա է դարձել եւ վստահ եմ, որ հասցեագրելու եք հարցեր։ Համեցեք։
Thank you very much. My name is IFPRI and I'm a graduate of Armenia, American University of Armenia. The question is, in Armenia there is an issue that some parents don't have a trustworthy source of information on how to feed their children. That's why they might address their parents or search in the internet of information how and what to give to their child. I would like to know what is the successful experience in developing countries to solve that issue. And the second question is, we know about the golden rice that scientists engineered rice for India or Africa, I'm not sure about, to increase the lack of vitamin for children who were going blind. Do you think that Armenia needs that golden rice? Thank you.
Different, very different. So we can take three.
Yeah, we can take 3 questions and then Alderman can answer these 3 questions.
Thanks, Doctor. It was a very nice presentation actually. My name is Tigran Tavamasan, representing UNICEF Office in Armenia, Disaster Risk Reduction Programs. And my question is related to emergency situations. As you know, the emergencies exacerbate the situation, the nutrition situation of children. So how can you adjust? I expect in your report you have reflected it, but it would be nice if you also present some thoughts on that. Thanks.
Շնորհավորություն եմ հայտնում դասավորության համար, իսկապես մեծ բավականություն ստացանք։ Ես ներկայացնում եմ առողջապահական համակարգը եւ իհարկե մենք եւս գիտակցում ենք, որ փոփոխությունները պետք է իրականացվեն եւ վարքագծային փոփոխությունների իրականացման միջոցով եւ ծնողների կրթման միջոցով եւ բնականաբար նաեւ գիտակցում ենք անհրաժեշտությունը սննդապահովման ծրագրերի իրականացման։ Ներկայումս Հայաստանում արդեն իսկ ստեղծվել են բազմաթիվ ռեսուրսային կենտրոններ, որտեղ իրականացվում է ծնողական կրթությունը, ծրագիր է մշակված ծնողական կրթության համար եւ նաեւ բազմաթիվ նյութեր են մշակված, թե վիդեո, թե տպագրական նյութեր, որտեղ որ տրված է բավարար հավաստի ինֆորմացիա 0-5 տարեկան երեխաների սնուցման վերաբերյալ։ Սակայն գիտակցելով նաեւ անապահով ընտանիքներում բացի կրթությունից նաեւ սննդապահովման ծրագրերի անհրաժեշտությունը ես կխնդրեի ելնելով ձեր փորձից պարզաբանել, արդյոք այդ ծրագրերը պետք է իրականացվեն գումարի տրամադրման միջոցով, թե սննդի։ Շնորհակալություն։
Okay, actually that was 4 questions because the first one asked 2, but okay. First about the trustworthy source of information. While it is well known that behavior change communication is part of any nutrition intervention strategy. Counseling or providing information in public media. It is difficult. People are always going to trust their mother or their grandmother first. But there are various ways, and this is more, the fact that this communication is important is not challenged. How to do it is very country specific. It has to be culturally determined. You have to find out what are the errors in the local diet. In some countries, a pregnant woman can't eat eggs because it's taboo. Once you know that, you can address it. In some countries, the child doesn't get fed if they have diarrhea. There are various different, each country you have to see where are the gaps and address it. Then you have to have, ideally face-to-face is the best way. But now they're also working on using cell phones, SMS messages. Did you take your iron? The women should take iron folate, and it's given out all over the world. It's given out to pregnant women, and then it's left on the counter, or they take it once a week when they should take it every day. Reminders can become from your phone every once in a while. There are ways being explored. This is the same. The advertisement community knows how to get people to change their behaviors. So if we had that same skill in the nutrition and health communities, we'd make great progress. Your second question, you mentioned golden rice. Golden rice is actually only one of a number of foods that are what are called biofortified. Golden rice is very controversial because it is genetically modified. However, there are many biofortified foods that are done with conventional breeding. With conventional breeding, they have made beans that have more iron, rice that has more zinc. Not only are these more nutritional, some of them have higher yields because plants need iron, plants need zinc just like people do. And these varieties are able to extract more from the soil. And then, so they're higher yielding. So, although I think that there is a role for golden rice in some communities that are particularly rice dependent, I think that there's a much broader range of biofortified that you don't have to go through the public relations issue of genetically modified, because there's many higher yielding and more nutritious grains that are now being produced through conventional breeding. It's still called biofortified, but it's not genetically modified. They're not the same thing. Thanks for bringing up the issue on emergency. It is an area of concern of mine. I neglected it here. I know that, I mean, every country has risks they should be considering, and Armenia has a known risk of earthquakes. You don't know when it's going to be, but you know there's going to be an earthquake. There's issues of getting your financing plan well in advance so that you can respond, or even stockpiling of food so you can respond. There's those issues, but as far as nutrition, there's another issue which is still being explored. When households have a flood or a tsunami or an earthquake, the response is to support the household with food packages. Maybe these packages should include specific foods for young children. There are programs in Africa which are exploring lipid-based, high-density products. You may have heard of plumpy nut, which is actually a therapeutic, but there's other products which are similar, which are not proprietary, which are less dense, less expensive, that have the same role. Very high dense in nutrients, designed for young children. If you do a package of food for relief in an emergency, perhaps those packages should include specific food for the at-risk young children. The research is actually mixed on this right now, but it hasn't been done in many situations. For obvious reasons, it's hard to do research in an emergency. As far as money, I mean, you talked about communication, the third question, but the specific question was much difference between providing money and providing food. There have been a set of studies, actually colleagues of mine at IFPRI with support from the World Food Program have done studies in a number of countries, Ecuador, Uganda, Bangladesh, Niger, all over the world, comparing transfers of equal value of cash and food. There are small differences. Sometimes the food you end up having, if you give food, you end up having more calories consumed, but a less diverse diet than if you got cash. My feeling is that the impact of these two modalities is very small, and that's not the concern. The concern is cash transfers are generally cheaper to administer. Globally, the figure is about 15% cheaper, if you have the banking and communication infrastructure to do it. So where those infrastructure and where that infrastructure is in place, cash transfers, you could get more resources to the low-income household because you spend less on moving grain around, storing grain, etc. But there are many places where it's not available. In that case, you still need food transfers when the markets are not functioning well. In an inflationary environment, food is inflation-proof, while cash is not. But in general, for long-term programs, the tendency now is cash transfers. People spend it just the same. People still spend it on food, and that evidence is pretty clear.
More questions?
More questions?
Dr. Alderman, I introduced myself before. I'm the Brazilian ambassador. And Brazil, as you mentioned in your presentation, has a lot of experience in some of the areas that you were touching upon. We have a big school feeding program. Pascal and others and I are dreaming that someday that program will be able to be of assistance to Armenia. We'll bring some of the experience here. We will. But what I wanted to mention is, in terms of source of information, that we have another area in which there's another area in which we are already helping Armenia. It's a program with UNICEF. We helped create 3 centers in cities of Kapan, Goris, and Syunik. Maybe you had the experience of passing through it alone. But it's for providing expectant mothers with information on their nutrition, and then mothers with information on the nutrition of infants up to 2 years old. It's only 3 centers in clinics in Kapan, Goris, and Syunik, in Sisian, in the province of Syunik, which is one of the most affected by infant malnutrition. We hope to expand upon that. But I was wondering if you had the chance of seeing them, or anybody else, anyway. And thank you for the presentation.
If I may ask a question, because I looked through the book that you gave yesterday. It is available on website, by the way, and I saw that one of pillars is considered also the tests and behavior of consumers of such programs, nutrition programs. I would like to know if it is about cash transfers, then this might be realized. If it is concrete food provided, then how it will be utilized.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. I didn't know the first point.
Addressing here as the focus of vulnerable families in particular, etc. Addressing preferences and behaviors. I do mean it is about preferences and behaviors of those who are the target audience of such programs. I would like you to ask you to elaborate a little bit more on this.
If there are other questions, then yeah, there was one.
Hello everyone, thank you for a comprehensive presentation. And my question refers to the delivery or administration of school food nutrition programs. I would like to know, is there any practice in Central Asia or Caucasus region of outsourcing or contracting out the management or administration of school food nutrition program, and what are the outcomes, if any?
Okay, the first question from the ambassador. Unfortunately, I haven't had much time in country and I haven't had a chance to look at these centers, but it seems like it would be a very valuable process to look at what they've been able to achieve so that you would then be able to expand. But one point I mentioned, which sounds very encouraging, nutrition education is best done prenatally for two reasons. First of all, because nutrition prenatal influences the trajectory. I mentioned the iron folate supplementation as one example, but other aspects as well. The second reason why is because it is well known that breastfeeding practices are an important part, and you can't give training on breastfeeding practices to where the mother of a 2-month-old child and get much result. One of the most important and simplest steps is to give the baby breast milk right after birth. The colostrums are very high in antibiotics, and no better way of getting the child's antibiotics than feeding them in the first 2 hours. If you don't do your nutrition education until they're coming to the first time they're getting a vaccine or something like that, it's too late. So this prenatal is the right time to begin the behavior change communication. The second issue about preferences and behaviors, well, there's a whole range. I mentioned how usually cash transfers still are spent on food. That is, it seems to nudge people into a better nutrition, better diet choices, even without any conditions attached. But the second point is on the behaviors has to do with some of that you put incentives in, such as coming to the healthcare and conditional transfers is an incentive. But part of it, again, is, as I've mentioned a few times, behavior change communication. So it's a range of things. But basically, I'm saying that this example of behaviors in economics, you have what resources you have, and then you have your preferences. Those combine to give you your outcomes. So when I'm talking about preference and behavior, it has to do with you don't just change resources, you also change preferences, you get a greater impact. The third point, I cannot answer about Central Asia or the Caucasus because I don't have experience there. But I can say that there are contracting done in many cases. Chile has one of the best school feeding programs in the world, and for years they've had it contracted. That's highly urbanized, which makes it easier. And the contracts are renewed periodically. So their performance, if they don't perform, they lose their contract. That helps too. India, some places are done by contract, and some of those contracts are quite decentralized. Self-help groups of women are the ones who run the contract. Now, India, got what, 1.2 billion people or so. Any project in India, you're going to have a mixed record. Some of them have worked very well, and some of them, they need to be reformed. But the potential has been proven. You just have to, then, as I said, tighten the administration in some places. But I can't talk about the region itself.
Perhaps just to add to this point on the difference between the different models of school feeding, there is a lot of research that has been conducted, also with colleagues from the IFPRI, because the drivers of costing and efficiency of the outsourced model versus the centralized logistic models versus the decentralized model that is the one currently administered by the government of Armenia are quite complex. So it's a research project of itself that WFP corporately is trying to undertake with the expertise of researchers, but we're planning to do some studies also here in Armenia, and hopefully we'll be able to also advise on your question on the administration, knowing that Professor Alderman has clearly highlighted some benefits over the decentralization of a school feeding program. Thank you.
No more. I see one more question, please. We like stimulating debate, so don't hesitate.
Okay, and my next question is about the like psychological aspects of recipients, children receiving this food. So, is there what about the stigma or stigmatization? Like within the class or within the school of providing the food, what are the mechanisms to fight that stigmatization?
Other questions, if you allow?
Okay, well, people are thinking of questions. I'll answer this. There are many steps that need to be taken to avoid stigma. In school meal programs, you usually have everybody in the classroom receiving a meal. In some countries, again, Chile is an example, but not the only one, you get a coupon. If you are poor, that coupon's free. If you are not poor, you pay different prices. Everybody presents the coupons look the same. So nobody has to know what you pay for that coupon. There are ways like that to try to anonymize programs. The United States now, our food stamp program, it's actually a debit card. It's not obvious unless you are really prodding to know who's using those food stamps and who's not. All supermarkets accept it and they treat it just the same as any other debit card. So there are many examples over the world. Not every program can be, and a matter of fact, sometimes it goes almost the other way. In the name of transparency, where you have programs where the well-off are getting programs designed for the poor, sometimes they do a public notice. These are the people, and that is not so much, there is the risk of stigma, but it's the shame, the people who are not eligible and know they're not eligible but are still getting programs designed for the poor. The public transparency you have to consider, as well as as well as stigma. They're balancing situations.
There are many international organizations operating in Armenia who are worried about the malnutrition of children in Armenia. My question is the government of Armenia concerned about this problem, and how much is it committed to solving this issue?
I can answer that very quickly. I have spent 9 days in Armenia. I'm brought here because I have worked in 40 or 50 countries, but I'm not in a position to make a comment about what the government of Armenia prioritizes.
Well, from all the discussions we had with the government is very well aware of the malnutrition problem in Armenia, and in Armenia we speak about a triple burden of malnutrition. It's not only stunting, but it's also overweight and obesity and micronutrient deficiency. So he is fully aware, fully committed. However, you also know the strong resistance to food fortification, which could be one way to address at least key micronutrient deficiency. And as the World Food Programme, with the school feeding program, we used to provide, for example, fortified wheat flour as part of the food basket with many other food commodities. And we've been requested to stop importing fortified wheat flour and giving fortified wheat flour to the children, which we've done. I mean, that's the decision of the government based on the decision of number of people in the population. So the way to address it is maybe, as we discussed, to find a compromise with maybe not food fortification, but food supplementation in school, where we do not take the risk of over-supplementing the children, because it's one meal per day with a specific quantity. So this would be one way of tackling the issue. Another way of tackling it, and here we've been very much enlightened by the presentation of Professor Alderman, is the relevance and the efficiency of the combination of nutrition or nutrition-sensitive program with the behavioral change communication, with raising awareness among the various segments of the population along the life cycle approach. So this is one way of addressing also the issue. Now I can't answer more. I'm not part of the government, so it's just reflecting the very intensive discussion we had with the various ministries and ministries lines since a year, or a little bit more than a year that I have arrived. But I believe, and also maybe with the comprehensive food security and nutrition and vulnerability analysis that we've done jointly with NSS, with UNICEF, and where we diffused largely the results, I think everybody is very well aware of the malnutrition and hunger issues in Armenia. Food insecurity and malnutrition, and as I say, malnutrition in its various dimensions. And what is also very important to see is the fact that overweight and obesity doesn't concern the poorest population. It's also spread across the wealthiest group. So here again, it's a lot about communication, healthy lifestyle, healthy food habits. So that's where we are continuing our joint efforts, of course, with UNICEF, with the government, various ministries, with research institutions, as many partners as possible. And maybe just to add, sorry, while we're still with the question on the emergency. There are many countries where, as part of the food package that is given immediately at the onset of an emergency, there is specific food for young children. I mean, it is an increasing habit, and it has become a policy within WFP. So at the very early onset of an emergency, the needs of the very young children are also taken into consideration. And then the relation also, or how school feeding can be used also in an emergency to scale up very, very quickly any emergency response is when you have an already existing school feeding program in the country. You have a network of schools which are used to deliver food on a regular basis every day of the school year. So using these schools as a platform to scale up immediately, very rapidly, and tremendously an emergency response program has proven to be extremely relevant. And for example, one of the last countries with an emergency I had been was Haiti, and here we definitely use the network of the schools to distribute the emergency support to the population very, very rapidly. Not only to children. Not only to children, but also to children, because as I say, as part of the food basket that we give, the needs of, the special needs of young children are taken into consideration with pumpkin nuts, I mean all these very specific nutrition programs.
My question relates actually to emergency situation, and as you rightly mentioned that there are certain commodity types that are provided at the onset of the emergency. Is there any study on cost benefit? Actually, a question has two dimensions: the nutritional side and the cost benefit analysis side. For how long this temporary assistance should last? I mean, it's costly commodity type, and for how long the cost is proven to be the efficient one?
It's a question. Luca just said it's a good question. The best questions are those which I have no way of answering. That's one of them. I don't know the answer to how long. It's not something that I have actually looked into. But let me go to the other side. The speed of response is a question. I have worked in situations of drought response in Africa where it takes, first of all, the government has to declare a drought, then the World Food Program, other United Nations organizations verify it, do an assessment, then they go out and do a global appeal, and then the resources come roughly about the next time it's raining. It takes too long. There's certain types of other things like a disaster or a hurricane or an earthquake, maybe you know immediately, but still you have to do the appeal. I have lobbied for insurance mechanisms, the same principles we use to insure for our house burning down could be used for countries to insure. The Caribbean countries do have that type of insurance for hurricanes. They know the probability of a hurricane, and they go out and they buy insurance so that the hurricane comes and insurance kicks in that week. That type of insurance is not done too often. It has been explored. The World Food Program explored it for drought response in Ethiopia when I was working in Ethiopia, but it didn't continue. This is a different side of the time dimension. The earlier you get in, probably the earlier you can get out. I'm speculating on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Quite often, the usual duration of an immediate response to an emergency is around 3 months, and that's the average duration. Then that gives you the time to also see how the population has the ability to recover and the speed at which it can recover from any disaster that they have been facing. So after these 3 months, where you make sure that you prevent severe malnutrition and that you continue having the food security for the whole population. After that, then you look at the specific situation in the country. But indeed, it would be very interesting to look at that more specifically with a very scientific sample and study. So, if there are no other questions, are there any comments? I know there are members from the Parliament today as part of the audience, we've been inviting a number of members of the Parliament, so if there are any comments from any of the public agencies or the people in the room, I see one hand.
Okay, since this is a set of questions, at least 3, I'll answer them. As far as local conditions, sure. I mean, my talk was to bring in global evidence, and that is the starting point for addressing undernutrition and hunger. They do try, and many of them rule out spending the coupon when it's a coupon. Often they're trying to control using soft drinks or junk food but in general it's considered not useful to try to force somebody, because they can always say, okay, I can't buy the potato chips with this coupon, I'll buy my main food here and I've got a couple of dollars, I'll buy the potato chips elsewhere. You can't really control somebody's preferences by coupon restrictions. What you can do, though, goes back to nutrition education, and again, other ways, as Mexico taxes soft drinks. They also ban the advertisements of snack foods on Saturday morning television when children are most likely young children. There are approaches like that, but I do not know of any approaches that use coupons to try to change diets. They explore that, but most of the time the ones that I know of have dropped it as being impractical.
Maybe it is time to close this very interesting discussion, and really thank you to all of you, and thank you to Professor Alderman for all these questions and answers and stimulating debate. Maybe just to encapsulate the discussion and also the way forward for all of us in this joint venture is social safety, social protection has an overall goal of really reducing poverty, and safety net is only a small part of social protection. I mean, that's maybe one of the key issues that we've looked at through this presentation. Then we've been presented with a number of evidence, because as Professor Alderman was saying, having sufficient evidence is the starting point when you want to design a program. You look at the economic side, you look at the objective you want to reach, you look at the target groups, and then once you have all that, and once you know the possible impact of what you will have designed, this is when you choose the most appropriate program for a given country. And of course it has to be country-specific, tailored with really the specificity of the country. So this is a venture that we've been engaging ourselves in partnerships with many other organizations, with the various line ministers and researchers, academics, also all over the world, to support the country in building its evidence. So we started, as I was mentioning, with the comprehensive food security, nutrition and vulnerability assessment. We're going to continue possibly with the impact review. We also looked at the return on investment of the school feeding program, and we're going to assess also and review the various possible models and most feasible and economically sustainable also model for Armenia for school feeding. Again, to support the government in taking its decision as to what should be the objective of the national school feeding program, and also what is the model, or what are the various models, depending on the location, on the specificity of the region, that we want to implement for the children of our country. I'm looking on the, I don't see anyone from the Ministry of Education, but basically this is a debate that we currently have, and we're here to support that debate with as many partners as possible, as many interlocutors as possible, and hopefully within a couple of years we'll have sufficient evidence and also studies to really support this venture and be much stronger in advising this maybe is the most appropriate model. And of course this is absolutely done in partnership. It's not